Hello everyone, and welcome back. Today's episode continues the tender, heart-wrenching saga of CEO James and the quietly resilient Diep. A love story that has gripped us from the very first moment, not with grand declarations, but with sacrifice, loyalty, and the sheer will to endure. In the last episode, the mastermind behind their torment, John, was finally captured. After days of deception and relentless pursuit, justice was partially served. But peace did not follow easily. In a split-second act of pure love, Diep threw herself in front of James, shielding him from a fatal blow. Her sacrifice was brutal. She fell into a coma, her body still, her breath faint, her spirit hovering between worlds. From that moment, the sterile hospital room became James's entire universe. The once unshakable CEO, a man of strategy and steel, was now reduced to a vigil at her bedside. Each day he held her hand, whispered unspoken prayers, and waited for the woman he loved to find her way back. Would she ever wake? Could a heart so bruised by life ever beat for love again? And then, miraculously, she stirred. A flutter of her eyelashes. A quiet breath escaping her lips. For James, that single moment cracked open the sky. He wept, not from sorrow this time, but from gratitude. Diep had returned from the edge of death, pulled back by love's relentless tether. What followed was slow, careful, and sacred. As Diep regained her strength, James brought her home, not to a house of grandeur, but to their quiet place of forgotten dreams. He never left her side, not even at night. Afraid to disturb her, he chose a hard wooden chair over the bed, just to stay near. One morning, as soft sunlight filtered through the window, Diep awoke to find James still there, her hand gently cradled in his. She smiled through tears. No words were needed, his actions had already spoken volumes. As her health blossomed, so too did the rhythm of their lives. Gone were the cold hospital corridors and sleepless nights filled with machines and monitors. Now, they welcomed each sunrise with simple joys: morning tea, walks in the garden, quiet meals shared in peace. Yet James knew the road ahead wasn't all soft light and second chances. The shadow John had cast over his company had caused chaos. With Diep's recovery stable, he returned to work, his mission now one of restoration. He inspected forests, walked long hours with engineers under green canopies, studied timber quality and projected yields. He met with partners, reopened stalled negotiations, and slowly, piece by piece, rebuilt trust in the market. His leadership wasn't just strategic, it was redemptive. Back in the countryside, Diep too was healing in her own way. The gentle girl we once saw lying in a coma now moved with quiet determination through her garden. Her hands, though small, picked ripe lychees from towering trees. She tied bunches with banana fiber and filled her baskets with summer's ruby jewels. At the local market, customers flocked to her stall, not because of any flashy signs, but because of her integrity. Her fruit was pure, untouched by chemicals, grown by hand, nourished by care. In her worn cloth bag, she carried only a few bills. But to her, it was a fortune. That day, Diep set aside a special batch of lychees, not for sale, but for someone precious, James's mother. The woman who had watched over her when she was unconscious, who made porridge, held her hand, and waited just like James did. In Diep's heart, she had become more than James's mother. She was the maternal figure Diep had longed for since her own mother's passing. When Diep arrived, James's mother welcomed her with warmth that went beyond words. "My dear, you look so well," she said, her eyes glistening. Diep, her voice trembling with gratitude, offered the lychees and thanked her for everything. What followed was a conversation like that between true mother and daughter, one filled with honesty, pain, and healing. Diep spoke of the terror of being held captive. Of Tong, the man who had saved her but whom she saw only as a friend. And when James's mother called her, "my daughter," Diep's composure broke. It had been so long since anyone said those words. The older woman gently offered her a place to stay, safety, companionship, and comfort. But Diep, deeply touched, quietly declined. "I need to prove I can stand on my own," she whispered. "Not for anyone else, but for me." That same afternoon, James arrived. He saw Diep on the porch, folding laundry, her smile soft, her presence grounding. After greeting his mother, he took Diep to the garden, where leaves shimmered in the breeze. "You don't have to carry everything alone," he told her gently. "If staying here doesn't feel right, come live near me." "Let me care for you." Diep looked down, her heart conflicted. "Thank you," she said, "but I need to try." "I've asked a neighbor to help me find a small house nearby. I want to prove I'm not fragile anymore." James nodded slowly, his eyes full of love. "If that's your path, we'll walk it together." "Tomorrow, we'll look, side by side." The next day, they returned to the old farm, the place where their love had once been stitched back together with bare hands and brave hearts. The car rolled quietly along familiar roads, their fingers brushing occasionally in silence. But when they reached the rice fields, devastation met their eyes. A flash flood had torn through the village overnight. Crops were ruined, hopes drowned. James stepped out, took one long look, and said, "We can't stand by." True to his word, he met with local leaders, surveyed the damage, and promised support, not with grand speeches, but with quiet commitment. "My company will help. We'll rebuild together." Before leaving again, James took Diep's hand. "Stay here. You're safe. Hockey is with you." Their loyal dog wagged his tail by the porch. Diep smiled and waved him off with faith in her eyes. Alone again, but no longer lonely, she returned to the house. She swept, gardened, and remembered. But the memories didn't hurt, they healed. Looking at her reflection, she no longer saw the fragile girl in a hospital bed. She saw strength, purpose, a woman who loved, and had learned to love herself. "I will live well," she whispered, "not for anyone else, but for me." "And if love finds me again, I will embrace it." Their story is not built on fireworks or fanfare, but on steadfast love, on moments whispered between heartbeats, on patience and enduring faith. And perhaps, just perhaps, in the not-so-distant future, a sunlit wedding will unfold where James, steady and sure, takes Diep's hand and walks her down the aisle toward the peace they've finally earned. Stay tuned, because some love stories don't just survive storms, they bloom from them.